Morning class. Today is the first lecture class of eye and I am going to cover the gross anatomy of the eye. So starting with the optics of the eye, there are two models to be studied because it comes in the exams. First is the schematic eye, which was given by Gullstrand. So in this diagram we can see that all the measurements have been taken by taking the anterior surface of the cornea as the reference point, and there are two principal foci, anterior f1 and posterior f1, and the two principal points, anterior p1 and posterior p1, and there are two nodal points n1 and n2. The applied importance is very less. The simplified version of the same is the reduced eye given by listing. Here also the reference point is that of the anterior surface of the cornea, and the anterior focal point f1 is situated about 15.7 mm in front, and the posterior focal point is situated 24.4 mm behind the anterior surface of the cornea. The principal point is located 1.5 mm behind the reference point, and the nodal points n is located 7.2 mm and posterior focal length is 22.9, and the eye is said to have a uniform refractive index of 1.336. Now next, coming to the axis of the eyeball, the optical axis is actually the line AR, which is passing from the center of the cornea through the center of the lens N finally to the center of the retina R. But the most important is the visual axis, which passes from the fixation point O, where the object of interest lies, and the nodal point of the lens N, and finally the fovea, which is the main seeing portion of the eye. Now the fixation axis is the line joining the fixation point and the center of rotation. Now coming to the accessory structures of the eye, the eyelid is most important because it is given in the exams. These are the various functions of the eyelids. First of all, it provides mechanical protection to the anterior globe. Secondly, it secretes oily part of the tear film due to the meibomian glands that is present inside the substance, and the blinking of the eyelids also helps in the spread of the tear film over the conjunctiva and cornea, and they also prevent the drying of the eyes. And both the upper and the lower eyelids contain the puncta through which the tears drain into the lacrimal drainage system. So these are the layers of the eyelid from outside to in. First is the layer of skin, next is the loose subareolar tissue, then is the layer of the striated muscles orbicularis oculi, then comes the tough collagenous layer or the tarsal plate and the orbital septum, and finally the innermost layer is the conjunctiva. You have also you have to remember this diagram and label it properly in your exam. Now a little bit about the applied anatomy of the eyelid. The levator palpebris muscle that is inserted into the tarsal plate is innervated by the third nerve, and any damage to it will cause the drooping of the eyelid called ptosis. And another involuntary muscle called the Muller muscle, which is supplied by the sympathetic system. Any damage to it also causes mild ptosis. And as I have said, the meibomian oil glands present in the tarsal plate of the lids help secreting the lipid component of the tear film. Now next, coming to the lacrimal drainage system. So first, the tears are formed by the lacrimal gland, which is present in the lateral portion of the eyes, and finally they are drained via the superior lacrimal canal, the inferior lacrimal canal, both of which join into a common canaliculi and drain into the lacrimal sac, finally into the nasolacrimal duct, which opens into the inferior nasal concha of the nose. Now in certain conditions, which is very common, certain babies come with a congenital NLD obstruction, the condition in which the nasolacrimal duct fails to canalize, so leading to the persistent watering of the eye as the tears fail to drain through the nose, and the child will come with epiphora or watering eye, and also sometimes if infection supervenes, then the child will have pain, acute inflammation, and a condition known as acute dacrocystitis. There's nothing much to be said about eyelash and eyebrows, which provide protection from external microbial agents and dust. The next structure is the conjunctiva, which is a transparent mucosal layer that covers the inner portion of the eye. Means the inner portion of the eyelid is covered by the palpebral conjunctiva, whereas the sclera is covered by the bulbar conjunctiva. The next important anatomy is that of the tear film. So the tear film has got three layers. The outermost layer or the lipid layer is produced by the meibomian gland. They form a hydrophobic barrier to trap water and prevent its evaporation. The middle layer is provided by the lacrimal gland, and it's the aqueous layer, and it has got water and proteins, which has got bactericidal activity and also regulates the osmotic pressure. And finally, the mucus layer is produced by the goblet cell found in conjunctiva and provide a hydrophilic layer which ensures an even distribution of tears along the tear film. The functions of the tear film are as follows. It provides a smooth air-tear interface for distortion-free refraction of light. It provides oxygen diffusion to the avascular cornea. It removes debris and foreign particles from the ocular surface through the flow of tears. And it has also got antibacterial properties because it has got IgA and lysozyme. Next is the extraocular muscle. So they are spread along the eyeball and maintain the flexible movement of the eye. And there are 7 types of muscles. The levator palpebrae superior muscle of the lid, which lifts the upper lid, and the 4 recti muscles, superior, inferior, medial and lateral, and the oblique muscles, superior and inferior oblique. Now, this table is very important table that shows the various action, the primary, secondary action of the muscles and the nerve supply. So easy way to remember is that all the muscles apart from lateral rectus and superior oblique are supplied by the cranial nerve 3 or the oculomotor nerve, and the superior oblique is supplied by the trochlear nerve SO4, and the lateral rectus is supplied by the 6th nerve or abducent nerve. Next is the angle of the anterior chamber. So the angle of the anterior chamber is a space which is bounded anteriorly by the posterior surface of the cornea and posteriorly by the anterior surface of the iris. So it's an angular structure, and it is very important because it is involved in the drainage of the aqueous. So these are the structures from outside in which form the angle of the anterior chamber. First is the Schwalb's line, next is the trabecular meshwork, then comes the scleral spur, and finally the ciliary body. Now the aqueous, you have to know certain points about the aqueous, like the volume. So the about 0.31 ml of aqueous is present in the eye, of which 0.25 ml is situated in the anterior chamber and 0.06 ml is situated in the posterior chamber. It has got refractive index of 1.336 and osmotic pressure of 3 to 5 milliosmol per liter, pH of 7.2, and the rate of formation is also asked in exam. It is 2.3 microliter per minute. The next part of the lecture will be covered tomorrow. Thank you.